Hey everybody, Bruce here with BK Industrial Coatings, and we're going to do a walkthrough and restoration on this 8410. This tractor was the owner's father whom he bought from the estate, so it's a sentimental as well as it is, you know, a work vehicle. We're in northwest Iowa. So this tractor has sat outside for a significant portion of its life. It's got heavy oxidation and staining in the paint, so before we ceramic coat, we have to remove all that, which is gonna brighten up the paint, make it look real vibrant. When we do a piece of equipment like this 8R tractor, we just do everything on it. So everything includes non-contact exterior surfaces. Got the hood. Behind this fender where you can't see, there's an exposed engine block. We'll bring the oxidation out of there to get that ready because we're gonna airbrush ceramic on that. Same with the faces of the wheels on both sides, the fenders, the glass. The pillars on the four corners of the cab, those will get polished out. I think I can point the camera up because it's following my face, but the roof will also get it. The side apron, as well as the whole top of the roof. Any rotating amber safety lights up there, GPS sensors. And then we'll do the smalls. We'll do the turn signals, the side mirrors, any kind of front lights, and we'll polish out any exposed frame rails. A lot of times there's gonna be areas of some rust, there's gonna be gouges in the paint. We'll polish over all of that, and it's not gonna remove the areas of rust that are there, but it's gonna make the surface surrounding it all uniform, and it's gonna look a lot better for ceramic coating. But it's good to let the person know, whoever owns the equipment, that polishing doesn't mitigate rust. So here's the 8410. We're gonna bring it back to life so you guys can see. So instead of doing a lot of talking before, I'll do a little bit of talking after, because we were both running polishers and trying to still make progress through this at a decent time. But decided to go rotary on this first with the wool pad, and then cut, and then finish it out with an orbital with also cut as well to kind of pull off any of those halograms that can be left from rotary. It just finishes it out nice, gives it a good look. So right now you're looking at it through all the polish. Just gonna leave the polish on there for now as I kind of go on to other spots of the tractor, and then we'll do a wet wipe and prep it all at the same time. So here we have one of the wheels. What we're going for here is we're trying to remove the oxidation. We want to make the wheel look better before we ceramic coat over it. A lot of times these wheels have weights stacked up in the center of them, and you can actually see where weights used to rest right here. It could also be their extensions, like hub extensions, to put another wheel and tire out on the outside. But either way, there was a plate resting here, blocking it from sun throughout the years, and so this is closer to the original color of what this whole wheel should be. So we've got this white oxidation, and then this yellow is the color that closer to the color of what it should be. So we're going to start out by just doing an APC scrub. It's an all-purpose cleaner. We use one made by McKee's 37. What this is going to do is this is going to act like your traditional clay bar method for a car. It's going to pull off the bonded contaminants and grade it. We'll also pull off a little bit of oxidation as well. And it's a pretty straightforward process. We just use the soft side of a Scotch-Brite glue pad, and then we'll just work it over the paint. And while the paint is wet, it's gonna look like it's pulling off more than it actually is. Just like if you were to put water on the oxidation would look like it's gone, but once it dries, it'll come back. When you're ceramic coating heavy equipment, all this equipment gets used for work. It's used in pretty aggressive settings. When you're doing this for somebody, that they're paying you to come out and make their equipment look good and then protect it with the ceramic coating so they can continue to keep it the way it looks when you delivered it back to them. Hitting that wow factor when someone walks in and they look at the piece of equipment and the first thing they say is, wow. Or knowing what we know about this tractor, knowing that this was the owner's father, whom we bought from the estate, we know there's a lot of sentimentality to it. It's sentimental to him. I don't know if sentimentality is a word, but we know it's sentimental. And so we really want to bring out the emotion in the customer when they look at it and they say, wow. To do that, you have to pay attention to areas that a lot of other people wouldn't pay attention to, like the wheels. Unless a wheel is going to be repainted, we'll pretty much always do wheels. There are certain manufacturers and certain eras of wheels that have a hard time holding on paint. And so if it has significant flaking of paint, or it needs to be repainted, we wouldn't ceramic coat over that. We wouldn't polish and prep it just because it's just not being a good steward of my customer's finances. It's also vastly unproductive to ceramic coat a surface that needs to be repainted. So you can see now as the surface is starting to dry that the oxidation is indeed still there. A little bit of it was pulled off, but not enough to say, oh, this is done, right? We need to go through a polishing stage. When they become this oxidized, we need to use rotary to pull off the majority of the oxidation with the wool pad, and then a cut, and then we'll follow it up with an orbital polisher to really bring out that shine, kind of give it a uniform surface, to remove any halograms that are present from running a rotary on a complex curved surface. So probably won't be able to do much talking as I'm holding on to this mule, but you'll be able to see this is going to be where the biggest transformation happens. Going to be running this at around 1200 RPMs. A lot of times I'm going to feather the trigger, so you'll hear the machine kind of oscillate a little bit, but usually don't go up above 1200 RPMs unless there's either a piece of frame or it's going to be a large flat hub. A lot of times there's really very deep oxidation in that, and it's a textured surface at a higher RPM is going to help. But otherwise we kind of run it at between 1,000 and 1,200 RPMs. 1,200 is where I prefer. Keith likes to run it closer to 1,600. Here's a pad washing bucket. When you use a polishing pad for a while, it gets built up compound oxidation and it mats these fibers together. It makes it not all that productive. So there's a couple different pad washing systems out there. This is the one that we prefer the best. It's got less internal parts. It's a very simple design. It doesn't get any plumbing clogged up inside of the pumps. But essentially when you push down on here, it shoots water up into the pad. So we'll leave this run while it's in there, and then that'll help clean out the pad. So give it a couple good pumps, and then we'll turn it on and pump and just kind of hit it while it's running. And then to spin out the majority of the water, turn it on high. And then usually I just run it up against the edge of the bucket for a little bit more abrasion. I don't know if the camera picks it up now, but the fibers are cleaner. It still look kind of matted over here, so we'll give it another run. There, and now they look good. Next step, we're gonna do a little bit of flex work. Flex refers to the type of polisher this is. This is a 3-inch polisher with quick disconnects. You can have a long throw, a short throw, rotary, and then a tool, flex tool. And so we're gonna go with the flexible tool right here for a moment. And we're gonna hit the inside edges of all these corners. And around the lug nuts, we're gonna do a little bit of work, but we'll also use the small flex to finish that out. When you run a rotary, it does really well for taking off the majority of the oxidation, but it does not do very well getting into edges like this. You could theoretically push a pad into that corner. The edge of this double-sided pad, don't know if I can expose it, but there's a plastic backer that holds each sides of this pad. To push it into this edge hard enough is to run the chance of running that plastic edge along your paint, which is just instantly gonna gouge it right down to the steel. So instead of taking that chance, we'll use the right tool for the right job. So we're just gonna run this flexible shaft along these inners right here all the way around, and then we're gonna do a little bit of work in here to start working inside these lug nuts as well. And so for this one, we're gonna start it just on the lowest speed possible. This is a pretty aggressive way to cut through paint. And so we're just gonna run it on a real low speed and no pressure. It's just the pressure of the tool itself. And we're just gonna run that edge. I'm putting no pressure down on this at all. I'm just taking off, just from experience, I know that there's gonna be an edge of oxidation right there. We're just taking off that edge. All right, so that's it for that. We're gonna put a 3-inch pad on here. For this, I need an old pad. I need just kind of a ratty, broke down pad. I need one that doesn't flare out on the sides because it is just barely big enough to fit in this gap right here. So I would just ruin anything that would be new. But I am gonna run on high speed. Now we're just gonna finish it out with a larger DA. This is a 21 millimeter long throw by Milwaukee. Gonna use the same cutting compound. We're also gonna see me holding it at angles when I'm running this curve. This pad oscillates as well as rotates. Some people call it a dual action polisher. It's technically not a dual action polisher, it's an orbital polisher, because this rotation is done by centrifugal force. A dual action polisher, the oscillation and rotation are driven by gears. So with that being said, if you aren't flat with it, right? If you're like this or you're a little off, you're gonna get the oscillating effect out of it, but it's not gonna be rotating. So it's not really gonna be doing very much to the paint at all. So you always need to be cognizant of, is my pad actually rotating? And the only way to keep it rotating on a curved surface like this is you have to run it at an angle and have one of your edges be a bite edge. But since you're moving and it's always turning, you always have to rotate the machine as you're going around the wheel. And this one's not going to take very much polish at all. There's already a ton of polish on the wheel as it is. So this wheel is all polished out now. So what we've got here to take off all the compound, we use rinseless wash by O&R. And so we've got a very, very saturated wet towel. And again, it doesn't need a lot of pressure. Just enough to hold the towel on the face of the wheel. And we're gonna get it in everywhere. This is gonna pull off the compound. It's going to pull off a lot of all the polishing fibers, just all of the goobers that are left on the wheel after running so much polish around it. And we don't use rinseless just for wheels. Anytime we polish something, it's just a really effective and time-saving way of removing polish off the surface is to use a wet towel or rinseless. We'll just dry it with a dry towel. So there you have it. Here's heavily oxidized wheel. I got APC scrubbed, and then rotary polish, and then orbital polish, and then we wipe up all the polish. And the next step is going to be use a prep solution. We're gonna fully prep the wheel. We're gonna remove any kind of remaining contaminants on it that would inhibit coating adhesion, right? It's the very last step before we ceramic coat. This oxidation is embedded so deep that we won't be able to remove it all safely without burning through the paint. So we get it to this stage, knowing that this tractor is sat outside its whole life. We probably won't be able to remove all the oxidation. And so we've got, I don't even know if the camera picks it up or not, but there is still oxidation that's left some on these edges. There's some right here, and the big shadow of it right here. But overall, kind of looking really good. And then this is where it'll sit until we get to the prep and coat stage later. We are at the coating stage. So this tractor has gone through polish and prep, and the paint has been totally cleaned and is ready for ceramic coating. We use two-part system by Roar, agriculture coating. Got step 1 and step 2. We break them down into smaller, more manageable bottles, so I can just kind of slide that right in my pocket as I'm going around. We use just a foam applicator, and then we use 2 towels. The first towel is going to take up about 80% of the coating. The second towel is going to be what we use to buff the residual carrier solvents off the paint. I'll prime the pad with around 10 to 15 drops. I prime it pretty liberally, and then after that, 3 to 5-ish. Textured areas like this steel right here, and then around all these bolts, this whole area, we're going to end up airbrushing and spraying. Same with the side of the engine block as well. Once I get down there, we'll always apply by hand as much as we can, and then we go over it with spray. Spraying doesn't make our day faster or easier or anything like that. It just ensures that we can guarantee complete coverage
But it's not like we spray because it's a faster way of doing things. It's definitely not. It actually adds another couple steps to it that otherwise you wouldn't have, but we can guarantee that we get full and complete coverage now because of it. And you can see Keith in the frame say, that was a forced smile. He gets in the zone and he starts working, and he's just a machine. Keith was a body man for about 20 years before he came on, and we started this together. I owned a auto detailing business, and so this is just a natural progression for me. But he did a whole industry change, and when we joined forces and started doing heavy equipment, farm implements and trucks and semis and dump trucks, and it's big. We want to coat it. We are coating experts. But yeah, Heath is a machine. We'll start with, like I said, about those 15 drops. I'm pretty generous and liberal with it, just to prime the pad. That's just for the first time, to prime the pad. And then, despite what the internet would like to have you believe when it comes to ceramic coating, how you have to do this weird pattern and you got to use these micro silk applicators, it's all mumbo jumbo and nonsense. It really is. So you need to get the ceramic on the paint, and we're using no pressure here. It's just enough pressure to hold the applicator. I can see at least up close where it is, and then I also have a mental map, and I kind of put in logical breaks on where I'm going to stop. So right here, there's a line in between these two panels, so that's where I'm going to stop on the top of the hood. Every section I go and do that, I'm going to make a mental note as to how far down I'm going. Depending on temperature and relative humidity, you need to let the ceramic kind of sit on the paint for a little bit. Right now, we need to let it sit for about 45 to 50 seconds before we can do that first wipe. First wipe is going to be no pressure, just enough to hold the towel onto the paint. When you are wiping ceramic, when you go to push it and you stop, wherever you stop, you've created a little pool of ceramic. So there would be a high spot right there if we didn't buff it out. Something to be cognizant of as you're going around edges and contours, that every time your towel stops and you change directions, there's a high likelihood that there's going to be a high spot there that you need to buff off. So we always kind of start at the furthest extent and work our way back. Now that the pad's been primed, I'm going to go a much smaller amount.
Hey guys, I hope you liked the content. I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe and leave comments, ask questions, interact with us if you want to see more.